If you missed chapters 1 to 10 of this epic manhwa, make sure to check out part 1 from the link in the pinned comment first, or you won't understand the real suspense. And for the returning fans, let's dive straight into the absolute madness of chapter 11. We open up in a high school classroom where our edgy boy with the red anime protagonist hair is trying way too hard to look cool. He scolds our main guy, Jin, who is currently rocking a bowl cut that screams, "My mom cuts my hair in the dark," asking why he hangs out with losers. Jin defends them as classmates, but red hair hits him with that pure, unfiltered capitalist logic, claiming real friends need to match social levels. He essentially says hanging out with NPCs means you'll live at their level. Jin literally stares at him like he's an alien. He thinks to himself, what kind of absolute nonsense is this guy spouting? But red hair just doubles down, leaning in and commanding Jin to act in a way that doesn't irritate him. "Okay, buddy, whatever you say." Suddenly, the awkward silence is broken when both of their phones vibrate. They check their screens to find a message from Ara, the absolute baddie of the class. She's dropping the location for her birthday party at the Hilton Hotel's Crystal Room. Before Jin can even process the invite, Ara and her squad of faceless groupies swarm his desk. Ara gives him that absolute mommy energy smile, pointing right at him, while Jin just sits there smiling like an absolute simp holding a blank phone. Meanwhile, red hair is throwing a massive silent tantrum in the background. He looks down and clicks his tongue, looking so salty you could use him to season a steak. Cut to the cafeteria, where Jin is absolutely destroying his lunch. I mean, he is inhaling this food with his cheeks puffed out like a starving chipmunk. Shoo shoo shoo, a group of girls walk by and spot him, but before the short-haired girl can even say hi to Jin, red hair materializes out of thin air behind her and hits her with an edgy move. She gets jump-scared, immediately sweats, and apologizes before backing off. Red hair sits down across from Jin to deliver another one of his elite TED Talks. He tells Jin to stop being soft because the poor kids are like hyenas clinging to him. Jin just keeps chewing, absolutely unfazed. Suddenly, Ara swoops right in with her tray, smiling brightly and reminding Jin to come to her party this weekend. Jin, still chewing his food like an absolute unit, just points at his face and agrees. The background girls start whispering about how lucky Jin is, claiming Ara definitely has her eye on him. Red hair has had enough of this NTR plotline. He rubs his neck in frustration, slams his spoon onto the table, stands up, and orders Jin to clean up his mess. Then he struts away with his hands in his pockets like he owns the cafeteria. Jin stares blankly at the tray left behind. He clenches his fist on the table so hard his veins pop. Is he furious about the disrespect? Is he about to awaken his hidden protagonist powers? Nope. He starts internally screaming because this capitalist bastard left half his food on the tray. He's literally staring down at the leftover rice and soup, mouthing over the waste, and actually asks himself if he can eat it. Peak main character priorities right here, ladies and gentlemen. After school, Jin is walking with the squad, ready to head out. But red hair intercepts him at the crosswalk, ordering Jin to get in his car for a ride. Jin tries to hit him with the "nah, I'll take the bus" excuse, but red hair hits him with a death glare, completely demanding he get in. Jin sighs, accepts his fate, and they walk over to a massive, bright yellow G-Wagon. Very subtle, totally not overcompensating for anything. Inside the Flexmobile, red hair sits looking out the window like a moody CEO. He scolds Jin again for hanging with losers, then flat out tells him he's annoying and shouldn't come to the party. Jin is utterly confused. Red hair finally admits the truth. He's super annoyed that Ara is getting along with Jin, bragging that their families have connections. Jin is still buffering, wondering if this is some kind of secret code. Red hair's fragile ego takes the wheel. He explains that his future girl is showing interest in a guy like Jin, and it's hurting his pride. Jin finally connects the dots and hits him with the most devastating counterattack, a smug smirk. He asks red hair if he's throwing this whole fit just out of jealousy. Oh boy, red hair absolutely loses his mind. He screams at Jin, calling him a bastard. Jin completely ignores the tantrum and instantly asks the driver to stop the car. Red hair tilts his head down into the shadows like a true anime villain, asking if Jin is trying to climb to his level. And then he just screams at the driver to stop the car himself. The yellow G-Wagon screeches to a halt in the middle of the street. Jin casually steps out of the back and walks away, leaving red hair alone to stew in his ruined pride. As Jin walks down the street, red hair glares at the back of his driver's head. He orders the driver to teach that bastard a lesson and beat him up right now. We get an intense close-up of the massive driver's eye, and you just know things are about to get incredibly messy. Red hair is trapped in the back of his flashy yellow G-Wagon, subscribe to see if our boy Jin survives. He screams at his massive, or if he'll be too distracted to go drop Jin into a fight right this second. But the driver, giving him the ultimate stoic side-eye through the rearview mirror, completely shuts him down. He bluntly reminds the spoiled brat that he wasn't hired by him, he was hired by his father. Absolute gigachad energy from the driver right here. Red Hair immediately pulls the classic, "Wait till my dad hears about this card." He whips out his phone and literally tattles to his father, whining that his driver isn't listening to him. The driver glances back, takes the phone from the furious rich kid, and calmly answers the call. After a couple of stoic nods and a quick understood, he hands the phone back and steps out of the car. Outside, Jin is just casually strolling down the street, rocking that tragic bowl cut, when the mountain of a driver intercepts him. Looking down at Jin, the driver orders him to go back and apologize to Red Hair, adding that he really doesn't want to be known for laying his hands on a high schooler. Does Jin flinch? Does he sweat? Nope. With his hands casually stuffed in his pockets, Jin hits back with pure sass. He tells the massive bodyguard that he feels sorry for him too and asks exactly what he did wrong to warrant an apology. The driver drops the tough guy philosophy, stating that it isn't about right or wrong, it's just a matter of who has power and who doesn't. Jin just smirks, firing back that if that's the case, there's even less of a reason for him to apologize. Jin then hits him with the ultimate reality check. He looks around the parking lot, pointing out the absolute barrage of security cameras, dashcams, and pedestrians nearby. He essentially asks the driver if he seriously wants to catch an assault charge in 4K resolution. The driver's eye twitches as he realizes the kid has a point. Jin, looking like an absolute boss with shadows covering his eyes, tells the driver to follow him to a quiet spot he saw earlier so they can finish their chat privately. He is literally inviting this absolute unit to a secluded duel. Jin turns and walks away, expecting an epic showdown. But plot twist, he turns around in surprise as the driver just turns his back, walks straight to the G-Wagon, and slams the door shut. Inside the car, Red Hair is completely flabbergasted. He throws a massive temper tantrum, punching the driver's seat and screaming, demanding to know why the driver isn't dragging Jin away to beat him up. The driver calmly states that there are too many eyes and cameras watching, and he refuses to leave his primary security target alone just to pick a fight. Red Hair loses his mind, screaming that it's a pathetic excuse. But the driver completely silences him by dropping the ultimate veto, the upcoming election. His father explicitly ordered him not to get involved in any unnecessary scandals. Red Hair is left utterly paralyzed by his dad's orders. He presses his face against the car window, veins popping in his forehead, gritting his teeth in pure, unfiltered rage as he watches Jin walk away untouched. Cut to a bit later, Jin is walking past a fancy hotel when a curly-haired thug lurking in an alley spots him. The thug pulls out his phone and compares Jin to a hostage photo. The photo shows Jin's glasses-wearing friend being held in a headlock by another punk. The thug steps out, calls Jin a bastard, and orders him to follow. Jin, recognizing the threat, complies. They arrive at an abandoned construction warehouse, because apparently that's the only place bullies know how to hang out. Inside, 3 generic thugs are lounging on wooden crates, smoking cigarettes and trying way too hard to look intimidating. Jin's poor friend is trembling on his knees on the concrete, absolutely terrified. The thug with the cigarette looks down from the stairs, mocking Jin for actually showing up. Curly Hair steps up next to Jin, smugly bragging that they only grabbed the loser friend just in case Jin tried to run away. Jin ignores the taunts, steps forward, and coldly demands they let his friend go. But the glasses guy starts panicking. He warns Jin that if they go to the police, these scumbags will start targeting the girls they hang around with. The bullies just laugh off the threat, reveling in their own villainy while the friend cries and apologizes for getting caught. Jin calmly places a hand on his crying friend's shoulder, telling him to stay back, and then Jin completely snaps. He launches himself off a wooden pallet with so much explosive force that it creates a literal shockwave. Curly Hair barely has time to look back in confusion before Jin is right in his face. Jin unleashes a devastating, full-body punch. Curly Hair barely throws his arms up to block, but the sheer kinetic force sends him skidding aggressively backward across the concrete floor, leaving a massive white impact trail in his wake. The other thugs are dumbfounded. Before they can even blink, Jin goes absolute goblin mode. A guy in a green jacket tries to swing, but Jin effortlessly weaves through the attack and brutally smashes the next thug in the blue hoodie. It is an absolute blur of violence. The final standing bully, rocking blonde hair and a red overshirt, is now sweating bullets. Realizing his entire squad just got dismantled in 3 seconds, he panics, screams at Jin, and charges in for a wild punch. Jin effortlessly parries the pathetic strike and obliterates the guy's face with a ruthless counterattack. We get this gorgeous, glorious overhead shot of all 4 bullies completely laid out and unconscious on the warehouse floor. Jin stands perfectly still in the center of the carnage, not even out of breath. Curly Hair slowly starts to wake up, groaning in pain as he tries to push himself off the ground. He looks up, and his eye widens in absolute, unadulterated terror. Jin is standing over him, his face completely cloaked in dark, menacing shadows. Jin coldly analyzes the situation, stating out loud that if he just leaves things like this, these scumbags are just going to bother his friends again. Oh boy, Jin has that final boss energy, and it looks like he's about to make sure these guys never walk again. Curly hair is sweating so much he looks like he just ran a marathon in a sauna. His eyes are practically bulging out of his skull. Jin slowly looks over at a pile of wooden debris on the ground. He casually walks over, raises his foot, and violently stomps on a thick wooden beam, launching it into his hand. He grips the wood and effortlessly snaps off a jagged piece like he's breaking off a piece of a Kit Kat. Curly hair is backed up against some crates, shaking like a leaf. Jin tosses the extra wood aside and slowly steps toward him. Driven by pure panic, Curly hair screams that he won't let Jin off and throws a desperate, wild punch. But Jin, he doesn't even blink. He effortlessly intercepts the strike, grabs the bully by his jacket, and brutally body slams him straight into the concrete. Wham! Curly hair is laid out, groaning in sheer agony with his teeth gritted. Jin stands over him, totally unbothered, and casually asks, "You said you do boxing, right?" Jin reaches down and completely crushes Curly hair's hand in his grip. The bully screams out in pain, but Jin isn't even looking at him anymore. Holding a sharp, jagged wooden splinter in his other hand, Jin turns to his completely traumatized friend, Dongjun. With a perfectly calm face, he asks Dongjun if he can wait outside for a minute. Dongjun, realizing his classmate is about to commit a war crime, frantically nods and practically teleport dashes out of the warehouse. Once they are alone, Jin drops his foot onto Curly hair, pinning him down. He holds the sharp wooden splinter right up to his own eye, warning the bully that if he ever touches his friends again, he's going to show him exactly what happens. Curly hair's eye dilates in absolute, unfiltered horror. Cut to outside the warehouse. We get a massive, sky-shaking scream echoing into the night while Dongjun stands there trembling. Inside, Curly hair is thrashing on the ground in excruciating pain. Why? Because our boy Jin literally shoved that 3-centimeter wooden splinter straight under the bully's fingernail. Oh my god, the cringe. You can practically feel the pain through the screen. Jin crouches down, his face devoid of all emotion, and delivers the coldest warning of the century. He tells the sobbing bully that if he ever hovers around him again, there will be splinters stuck under every single one of his fingernails and toenails. He whispers, "Let's make sure we never see each other's faces again." Curly hair is just absolutely weeping at this point. Jin stands up and casually strolls away, leaving the 4 thugs scattered on the floor like discarded ragdolls. Jin walks out of the warehouse to find Dongjun, asking if the coast is clear. With a heavy sigh of relief, the edgy shadow lifts from Jin's face. He suddenly scratches the back of his head, reverting to his innocent bowl-cut persona, and literally asks himself, "Was I too harsh? They're just kids." Bro, you just gave a guy medieval fingernail torture. I think harsh is an understatement. But suddenly we get a flashback that explains everything. We see a brutal memory of people stripped down, their wrists tightly bound with thick ropes, hanging suspended from trees in the middle of a forest. It looks like some kind of hardcore assassin training camp. We see a glimpse of someone with red hair hanging there, and then Jin's incredibly sharp, cold eyes. Yeah, no wonder he fights like a demon. This kid was raised in the gulag. Back in the present, Dongjun walks up, completely silent and terrified. Jin tells him that he won't have to worry about those guys anymore. Then in the most terrifyingly friendly way possible, Jin throws his arm around Dongjun's shoulder, flashing a bright, cheerful smile and asks, "You know today's events are a secret, right?" Dongjun, sweating bullets and fearing for his life, nervously stammers in agreement. Jin seamlessly shifts gears and excitedly asks if he wants to go eat tteokbokki. Ah yes, nothing like some spicy rice, cakes after a little light torture. The next day at school, Jin is sitting at his desk looking like a completely harmless NPC. A couple of girls walk by and wave, and he gives them the goofiest, most innocent smile imaginable. But then Dongjun walks in. He takes one look at Jin waving, gets full-blown Vietnam flashbacks of the splinter scene, flinches, and awkwardly shuffles to his desk. Jin notices this and casually thinks to himself that the guys seem to be doing fine. Jin closes his eyes, trying to relax, but flashes back to the tteokbokki restaurant from the night before. We see a hilarious shot of Dongjun literally bawling his eyes out with a whole sausage stuffed in his mouth, crying about how scared he was when he got dragged off by the bullies. Jin rests his chin on his hand, deep in thought, realizing he needs to finish this whole situation properly. Suddenly, the packing shifts. Red hair, the arrogant rich kid from the previous chapters, struts up to another student in the classroom. With an incredibly smug, villainous smile, he orders the guy to clear out the gym tonight. Jin side-eyes this absolute clown from across the room. He knows exactly what this spoiled brat is planning. Jin smirks internally, noting that he can see absolutely everything Red Hair is thinking, which makes things much easier for him. Oh man, Red Hair thinks he's playing chess, but Jin is out here playing 4D Mortal Kombat. Red Hair guy, still mouthing from his previous humiliations, struts up to his previous favorite lackey sitting at his desk. With his usual entitled smirk, he orders the lackey to clear out the gym tonight. But plot twist, the lackey flat out refuses. He looks down, explaining that his father is hospitalized and he really doesn't have the energy to worry about useless places right now. Red Hair's brain practically short-circuits. He hits him with a sharp, offended glare, completely baffled by the concept of the word no. Frustrated, Red Hair clicks his tongue and stomps over to Jin, who is just chilling at his desk with his arms crossed. Jin looks up, flashing the smuggest, most disrespectful little smile, and casually asks Red Hair what's not going his way. Red Hair is completely triggered. He glares down at Jin and promises him that once he finds a place, he's going to make him pay. Jin doesn't even blink. He just casually brushes him off with a yeah, got it, completely ignoring the threat. Red Hair turns to leave, glaring back over his shoulder with an eyeball so intensely veiny, it looks like it's about to pop out of his skull. Jin turns his attention to the guy who just refused to set up the gym. Jin asks him directly why he did that to Dongjun. The guy looks confused for a split second before Jin completely invades his personal space. Jin grabs him by the shoulder, his grip tightening like a vice, and leans right into his ear. With his eye glowing in the shadows, Jin delivers a bone-chilling whisper, warning him to never touch those guys again. The bully instantly starts sweating bullets, absolutely paralyzed by Jin's sudden final boss energy. Jin stands up straight, his face completely serious, and boldly declares that they'll be using the gym today. He internally notes that it's time to sort out the hierarchy and finish this mess once and for all. While Jin smirks with absolute confidence, we get a shot of Red Hair lingering in the background, gritting his teeth and practically fuming steam from his ears. Cut to outside a massive building labeled TJ Sports. The absolute unit of a bodyguard, the massive guy in the black suit who drives Red Hair's obnoxious yellow G-Wagon, is standing by the car, letting out a heavy sigh. He's completely miserable, complaining about having to throw punches at high school kids. But then he gets a massive PTSD flashback. We see an epic black and white memory of muscular lackey trying to swing a massive hook at Jin, only for Jin to effortlessly weave under it and absolutely obliterate the lackey's face with a brutal counter-strike. The driver winces, inhaling pure copium as he tries to convince himself that there is no way he'd actually lose to a high schooler in a real fight. Suddenly, a guy in a trench coat and glasses strolls up, casually greeting the driver. He mentions that it's been a long time and he heard the driver quit the company. The massive driver immediately bows in respect, apologizing. Trench coat guy waves it off, saying there's no need to apologize considering their pathetic salary. He then asks if the driver's mother is feeling better. The driver is stunned that he knew, but trench coat guy smiles, praising the driver as a pretty decent field operative back in the day. Then the law drops, and it drops hard. Trench coat guy asks the driver if he's heard about Chairman H. Wang's situation, a guy who apparently just fell into a coma from a brain hemorrhage. But the higher-ups are suspicious, claiming it does seem like the handiwork of someone named Shadow. The driver looks absolutely shook. He stammers out the name Shadow, barely able to believe it. Trenchcoat guy then drops another massive name, Zero, claiming there are rumors that this legendary hacker is from the north. We get a menacing, shadowy visual of this Shadow, assassin looking like an absolute demon, while Trenchcoat notes how ridiculous this all is. Why would Shadow, who disappeared 10 years ago, and Hacker Zero, who is chased by agencies worldwide, suddenly pop up just to target a mediocre company ranked 30th in the business world? It makes absolutely zero sense. As Trenchcoat guy walks away, waving goodbye and telling the driver to retire safely, the driver is left sweating, thinking there's no way legendary figures like Shadow and Zero are actually operating in Korea. But immediately, the manga hits us with the ultimate teaser. We cut to dad comrade sitting in a dark, high-tech room surrounded by glowing monitors, casually sipping coffee. And right after that, a shot of mom comrade in the kitchen, humming a happy tune while rapidly chopping a carrot with a massive chef's knife. Are these our legendary phantoms just living casual daily lives? Obviously. Finally, we jump to the main event. Inside a massive MMA cage, Jin is calmly wrapping his hands in red combat tape. Red Hair and the driver are standing opposite him. The driver looks down, utterly defeated by his life choices, and plainly states that it's time to quit. Suddenly, muscular lackey turns to Red Hair and announces he's leaving. Red Hair panics, demanding to know why he's dipping out so soon and telling him to stay and watch. The lackey coldly fires back that he lent him the gym and gave him a ride, which is more than enough. Red Hair scoffs, thinking the muscular lackey is just sulking, and arrogantly promises that after he destroys Jin, the lackey can be his right-hand man again. The lackey takes one long look at Jin's deadpan, unfazed face, basically realizes he wants absolutely no part in whatever war crime is about to happen, and hits him with a blunt, not interested, before walking away. Red Hair curses his muscular classmate, but Jin interrupts him. Jin holds up his wrapped fist, pointing it right at bodyguard, and drops the ultimate wager. If I beat that old man, you'll become my lackey. Red Hair is furious, calling him a bastard. Jin calmly explains his logic. If Red Hair loses, he's just going to bring someone stronger, and then someone stronger after that, so they need to end it right here. Red Hair completely loses his mind. He screams that Jin can never win, and then drops his ultimate flex. With a maniacal, wide-eyed psycho smile, Red Hair screams that his bodyguard is a former NIS secret agent. The driver pauses, looking back like, bro, did you really just dox me to a teenager? But Jin, does our boy panic? Does he sweat? Nope. Jin just gives Red Hair the most intense, predatory deadeye, his pupil practically glowing as he smirks and says, really, that sounds interesting. Oh man, Jin is about to throw down with a literal government super spy, and he looks like he's ready for dessert. We open up inside the MMA cage. Jin stares down the massive, suit-wearing bodyguard and demands he apologize to his master Jinseok right now so they can pretend none of this ever happened. Jin literally questions the guy's pride, narrowing his eyes and ruthlessly roasting him for being a former secret agent who now gets paid to beat up high school kids. Oof, emotional damage right out of the gate. The bodyguard stands tall, looking completely unbothered. He calmly replies that from Jin's perspective, he supposes it might look that way. Showing some serious gigachad mercy, the driver admits he doesn't want to do this either and offers Jin one last chance to back down. Jin just closes his eyes, flashes the most condescending, arrogant little smile, and happily chirps that he doesn't really feel like backing down. The driver lets out a heavy, exhausted sigh. He looks down, completely resigned to his fate, and mutters that there's no other choice, promising to go easy so Jin doesn't get hurt. But before the man can even finish his sentence, *whoosh, Jin explodes forward and launches a devastating, high-speed sweeping kick right at the driver's face. The agent's eyes practically bulge out of his skull in shock. He barely manages to throw his arms up to block, skidding backward as dust kicks up from the sheer kinetic force. Jin isn't done. With his eye glowing like a literal predator, he instantly follows up with a massive straight kick directly into the bodyguard's guard. Bam! The impact is so heavy the agent actually grunts in pain and gets shoved back again. Jin pulls his kick back, looking mildly annoyed, and actually has the audacity to ask, "You blocked that? Bro, he's a government agent, not a training dummy." Outside the cage, Red Hair is completely mortified, shaking as he watches his ultimate weapon get pushed around. The agent stands back up, dropping the pity act. He compliments Jin, but warns him that attacking with half-learned fighting techniques is only going to get him hurt worse. Jin stands in the center of the ring, internally noting that this guy's reaction time is definitely on another level. For a split second, Jin actually considers taking a dive, wondering if he should just take a few hits and let the guy win to avoid any more drama. But suddenly, the screeching sounds of a spoiled brat interrupt his thoughts. Red Hair throws an absolute toddler tantrum outside the cage, screaming at the top of his lungs for his driver to destroy Jin quickly. Jin side-eyes this screaming menace and realizes that if he throws the fight, this annoying brat is just going to keep bothering him. The agent starts stomping forward, closing the distance. Red Hair smirks, eagerly anticipating the beatdown. Jin's demeanor completely shifts. He plants his feet, drops into a serious fighting stance, and dares the agent to show him his skills. Our main character goes full beast mode. He launches an incredibly fast, unorthodox straight punch. Bodyguard barely tilts his head to dodge, instantly realizing something is wrong. Jin's fingers are extended. He's literally aiming to gouge Bodyguard's eyes out. Bodyguard ducks under the lethal strike and throws a heavy body blow counter, but is completely shocked when Jin seamlessly blocks it with his other hand. They are locked in pure hand-to-hand combat now. The agent counters with a swift, brutal elbow strike aimed to throw Jin, but he stopped and looked down at his leg. Jin manages to hold Bodyguard's leg with his both legs, but the agent instantly follows up with a sweeping strike that Jin has to block with both arms smash. The sheer force slices right through Jin's white button-up shirt. Oh my, we got a little battle damage thirst trap for the fangirls. Jin looks down at his ripped collar, completely unfazed but looking absolutely majestic. Alright, playtime is officially over. Jin clenches his fist, spins with terrifying momentum and delivers a massive backhand strike right into the agent's guard. The force is so astronomical that the massive bodyguard goes skidding backward across the cage, leaving literal drag marks on the canvas. The agent is sweating bullets now, holding his stinging ribs and internally panicking. He realizes Jin isn't using standard martial arts, he's fighting like a literal weapon. Jin stands tall, looking down with cold, dead eyes. He knows half-hearted attempts aren't going to put this super spy down. Outside, Red Hair is absolutely losing his mind, screaming at his bodyguard to stop going easy and kill him. The agent, dripping with sweat and gritting his teeth, charges back in. He throws a heavy palm strike, aiming to grapple. Jin effortlessly intercepts the grab, sliding back perfectly to absorb the momentum. They clash in a flurry of high-speed movements until Jin finds his opening. Jin grabs the agent and drives a devastating knee strike straight into his chest. Crash. The agent desperately grabs onto Jin's ripped collar, his eyes wide with absolute desperation, and uses his own momentum to pull Jin into a massive throw. But Jin is just built different. In a blur of motion, Jin breaks the grapple, completely overwhelms the agent's defense, and drops an absolute Uno reverse of a downward elbow lock right onto the agent's arm. Boom. The agent's eyes instantly glaze over. He is completely staggered. Even Jin looks genuinely surprised, looking down and wondering how on earth this guy is still conscious after being in an arm lock. Jin slides back, unlocked his arm lock. The absolute unit of a bodyguard trying to get up with his hands and knees, sliding across the mat, completely defeated. Gasping for air, the agent struggles to stay upright. Jin stands over him, rocking that torn shirt like a runway model, and casually calls him out. He asks the mister why he isn't using his fists, pointing out that the agent finally realizes he isn't skilled enough to hold back against a student. The agent catches his breath, looking up with a smirk, asking if Jin figured that out too. He stands up straight, completely drops his guard, and formally apologizes for underestimating Jin just because of his age. And then he drops the hardest 3 words a bodyguard can say: I lost. Jin blinks in surprise. Outside the cage, Red Hair looks like his soul just left his body. Jin tells him he doesn't need to apologize since he lost, but Red Hair completely snaps. He screams absolute nonsense, demanding the agent fight properly and threatening to fire him. The bodyguard has had entirely enough of this spoiled kid. He turns his head, tells Red Hair to shut up, and drops the ultimate mic drop. I'll submit my resignation. Red Hair flinches, completely stunned into silence. The Gigachad bodyguard casually walks out of the cage, telling Jin they'll finish this outside the ring if they ever get the chance. Jin smiles confidently, giving him a silent nod of respect as the ex-agent disappears into the shadows. And now, Red Hair is left entirely alone, without his secret agent meat shield. Sweating profusely, he stammers, trying to call the driver back, but it's too late. We get a glorious, terrifying close-up of Jin's incredibly smug, menacing smile. He turns his gaze to the absolute coward trembling outside the cage and purrs. Now we should have a little chat, don't you think? Oh boy, Red Hair is about to meet God. We open up right inside the MMA cage, where Jin casually strolls forward, kicking a discarded MMA glove out of his path. With absolute final boss energy, he looks down at Red Hair and calmly asks what exactly he should do with him. Red Hair is absolutely terrified, sweating so profusely he looks like he just stepped out of a shower. Desperate to save his fragile ego, Red Hair throws up his hands and screams, daring Jin to touch him and throwing out the ultimate rich kid trump card. You know who my dad is, right? Jin just smirks, completely unbothered, and casually drops the law that he knows exactly who his dad is, the Liberty Party's presidential candidate, who is expected to take over the country in 6 months. Hearing Jin acknowledge his father's power, Red Hair completely misunderstands the situation. He suddenly regains his false confidence, flashing a maniacal grin and assuming Jin is too scared to attack. Riding this massive wave of pure copium, Red Hair starts bragging more. But Jin doesn't even blink. He literally just raises his hand swiftly towards the bully's face and stops midair close to bully's face. Jin stands perfectly still, his face devoid of all emotion, holding his arm close to Red Hair's face. He looks down at this pathetic display and ruthlessly roasts him, calling him a little brat who constantly cries for his daddy, and wonders out loud if he should just end things right here. Showing a tiny shred of mercy because Red Hair bought him meat once, Jin drops his arm and walks past him. But Red Hair's ego just cannot handle the disrespect. He turns around, veins popping, flashing a sweaty, unhinged smile, and threatens that Jin is going to pay if he doesn't listen to him. Oh, big mistake. We get an intense, terrifying close-up of Jin's darkened eye. The patience has officially left the chat. Wham! Jin spins around and violently palms Red Hair straight in the face with blinding speed, the impact echoing through the entire gym. Jin grips the rich kid's face like a literal bowling ball, forcing out a painful, muffled groan from Red Hair. With a menacing, mocking smile, Jin leans in and asks if he's always this scared. Red Hair, still huffing weapons-grade copium while literally being held by the skull, tries to claim that Jin must be the scared one, stammering out that he knew Jin couldn't actually hurt him. Jin's smile vanishes, replaced by a cold, dead stare. He just mutters, really, and absolutely clamps down on the boy's face. The pressure is insane. Red Hair's eyes bulge in pure panic as he realizes he literally cannot breathe. He desperately gasps and chokes, his teeth grinding against Jin's iron grip. Get a top-down shot of Red Hair completely panicking, grabbing Jin's arm with both hands and thrashing around like a fish out of water. His eye becomes completely bloodshot, tears of pure terror welling up as he lets out muffled screams, and just casually swats the boy's frantic hands away with his free arm, looking at him with absolute terrifying indifference. Red Hair completely breaks. Snot and tears stream down his face in a humiliating waterfall as he weeps under Jin's crushing grip. Finally, Jin releases the pressure just enough for the pathetic bully to gasp desperately for a lungful of air. Jin shoves him back against the chain-link fence of the cage, telling him to stop and warning him that he should understand his place by now. But somehow, Red Hair still hasn't learned his lesson. Coughing and wheezing against the fence, he clenches his trembling fist and screams that he's going to tell his dad. Crying his eyes out, he promises that one word from his father will ruin Jin. Jin closes his eyes in sheer disappointment. He instantly lunges forward and clamps his hand right back over Red Hair's face, slamming him against the cage once again. Red Hair is pinned, weeping and still desperately trying to act tough, sobbing that he's going to kill Jin. Jin gives him another deadpan glare, essentially asking, "Are you sure about that?" and tightens his grip until Red Hair finally, entirely folds. Completely defeated, Red Hair stammers out a pathetic surrender, begging and promising he won't do it again. Jin leans in, noting that the punk's eyes still look a little rebellious and that he seems like he's going to cause trouble again. Red Hair collapses into a sobbing mess, cursing through his tears. Jin leans right into his ear and whispers for him to listen very carefully. Red Hair slides completely down the cage wall, falling to his knees in absolute, utter humiliation. Standing over the weeping bully, Jin unleashes an absolute villain monologue. Radiating final boss aura, he promises that he can make Red Hair suffer terribly without leaving a single physical mark. He guarantees that he can turn every single day at school into a living hell. Red Hair is just an absolute mess of tears and drool on the floor at this point. Jin leans down, acknowledging that Red Hair will probably try to use his daddy's political power to strike back. Jin gets right into his face, his eyes bulging with pure, terrifying intimidation, and asks, "Do I really look like I'll cower in fear?" We get a bone-chilling close-up of Jin's dead, assassin eye. Jin then stands up, turns his back, and drops the most hilarious out-of-place excuse ever. He calmly states that he just came to this country to make good friends, study, go to a good university, and get a good job. Bro, you are literally standing over a weeping teenager in an underground cage match after admitting you know how to torture people without leaving marks. What do you mean good university? Behind him, Red Hair is internally seething, gritting his teeth and plotting his revenge. But Jin doesn't even look back, coldly stating that if Red Hair interferes with his normal life, he will destroy him. The manhwa gives us this incredibly epic visual metaphor of a massive, shadowy, demonic hand reaching out to crush the tiny, insignificant Red Hair. Red Hair completely loses his mind, screaming for Jin to stop. Just then, the muscular lackey returns, stepping into the cage and telling Jin that he's done enough. The ex-lackey scoops the completely broken Red Hair off the floor. Jin immediately switches back to his fake, innocent bowl-cut persona, flashing a bright smile and asking if this is the kind of stuff they usually do to people. The lackey looks away, promising he'll make sure this never happens again, and carries the weeping rich kid out of the gym on his shoulder. Standing alone in the empty cage, Jin scratches his head and actually wonders to himself if he was too soft, feeling like the punishment was a bit lacking. Bro, you basically gave him PTSD. I think you did plenty. Cut to the next day at Seoul International High School. Jin is strolling into his classroom with his hands in his pockets, rocking that absolute NPC look. He glances over at the desks and notices that the Red Hair bully Jin Seok is absent. Jin's eyes narrow slightly and he immediately starts questioning his mercy, wondering if he really should have finished Red Hair properly. We all know properly in Jin's vocabulary means someone isn't breathing anymore. Suddenly, the baddie Liara jumps up over a desk right in his face, startling him. It's the thirsty classmate reminding him to make sure he comes to the birthday party tomorrow. Jin instantly drops the internal assassin monologue and hits her with the goofiest, most innocent simp smile imaginable, happily agreeing to go. The duality of this man is absolutely insane. We cut to a fancy political office. Red Hair bursts through the grand double doors, weeping like a literal toddler, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Dad, your son got beaten up, please." We see a sharp fountain pen aggressively sign a document before the nib brutally snaps under the pressure. The camera pans up to reveal the Liberty Party representative, Red Hair's father. And oh my god, he has the exact same intense, veiny, demonic eyes as his son, and he looks absolutely furious. It looks like Jin's normal school life is about to get a whole lot more complicated. We see Red Hair standing in the middle of the room, weeping like a literal toddler. He screams out for his daddy, clutching his chest and crying that he got terribly beaten by a bastard and almost died of suffocation. His dad, looking completely exhausted and rubbing his temples, stares at his pathetic excuse for an heir. He bluntly calls out the boy's massive cap, stating that he's exaggerating because there isn't a single scratch on his body. Red Hair sweats bullets, desperately stammering that the pain is real, but Dad goes absolutely nuclear, roasting his son to a crisp. He yells that Red Hair isn't even an elementary school student, and he has no business running to his daddy to tattle, just because he had a little fight with a friend. Red hair completely loses it, screaming that he's too scared of Jin to even go to school. Dad gives him the coldest, most unimpressed glare and casually suggests that he just take this opportunity to study abroad in America with his sister. Red hair's brain practically short-circuits. He hits him with a stunned, "What?" But Dad is already done with the conversation. He presses the intercom button on his desk and orders his secretary to bring in Agent Han. The double doors swing open, and the GigaChad driver, Agent Han, struts in, looking as stoic and unbothered as ever. Red hair immediately points his finger like the ultimate schoolyard snitch, yelling that Han abandoned him and left him to get beaten up. But Dad shuts him down instantly. "Be quiet." He glares at his son, demanding he show some respect because it was incredibly difficult to hire an agent of Han's caliber. Red hair looks down in utter defeat. Dad turns to Agent Han, respectfully apologizing, explaining that because he had a late-born child, he raised him way too preciously, making him incredibly immature. Then Dad asks the golden question: how on earth did his son get beaten up when a former Black Ops agent was standing right there? Red hair starts sweating profusely, dreading the truth. Agent Han keeps his eyes closed and drops a nuke. It's true. Han opens his eyes, staring dead ahead, and seriously advises the politician to make sure his son never messes with that student again. Dad's eyes go wide, the pupils glowing red in pure shock as he tries to process the fact that a high schooler just humbled his elite bodyguard. Dad sighs, turns his back, and drops some heavy political wisdom. With the election less than 6 months away, he aggressively reminds his son how many politicians have been dragged to hell because of their children's school violence scandals. But he doesn't stop there. Dad delivers the ultimate blow to Red Hair's fragile ego. He states that if this Jin kid is outstanding enough to actually beat Agent Han, Red Hair shouldn't be fighting him, he should be recruiting him. He coldly asks his son how he ever plans to follow him into politics if he can't even manage that. Red Hair desperately tries to argue, stammering that Jin keeps trying to climb the social ladder. But Dad yells, "Enough," and flat out refuses to indulge his childish tantrums anymore. We get a hilarious, pathetic shot of Red Hair standing alone in the room, surrounded by a dark aura of pure, concentrated humiliation. Cut to the Hilton Hotel at sunset. It's time for Ara's highly anticipated birthday party. Outside the third-floor grand ballroom, a suave, silver-haired manager in a grey suit calls out Jin's name. Jin is standing there rocking a dorky plaid button-up over a white tee, basically the ultimate NPC fit. The manager tells him he's 30 minutes early, and Jin scratches the back of his head with a goofy smile, claiming he came early because he was afraid of being late. But the moment the manager looks away, Jin's innocent facade drops. His eye sharpens in the shadows as he internally wonders how the staff knew his name, suspecting that Ara might have investigated his background after all. The manager gestures to the open doors, telling Jin to wait inside. Jin strolls in, looking around in absolute awe. Compared to the last time he was here, the ballroom is completely transformed, complete with a massive golden stage and instruments. Suddenly, Ara spots him. "Jin, you're early, and guys, absolute thirst trap incoming." Ara is rocking a stunning, short green blazer dress, boots, and a massive ribbon in her hair. She strikes a cute pose with those thick thighs, throwing up a peace sign and asks if she looks pretty. Jin, playing his simp role to absolute perfection, nods so hard his bowl cut bounces. Ara tells him to take a seat while she finishes preparing and struts off. Jin sits alone at a massive, empty round table until a commotion at the entrance catches his eye. It's his classmates. Some rich NPCs arrive, looking completely chopped and out of place, alongside a fat guy and a girl in a green dress. But right behind them, the doors open again. It's Red Hair, and while his outfit is a crime against fashion, a hideous brown plaid jacket, black shirt, and bright red sneakers, he struts in like he wasn't just crying to his dad 20 minutes ago. Jin watches him walk in, internally sighing that this clown actually showed up. Despite Chopped Guy suggesting they sit elsewhere, Red Hair stubbornly marches over and plops himself right down at Jin's table. Red Hair sweats slightly but flashes a smug "Hey" at Jin. Jin just stares at him with dead eyes, utterly unimpressed, wondering if this guy is seriously trying to flex his little group of followers. Suddenly, mic feedback rings out across the room. Ara is up on stage, addressing the massive crowd. She confidently announces that she banned her dad from giving a speech because she didn't want a bunch of boring adults ruining her birthday. The camera pans to the crowd, revealing some incredibly shady, faceless men in suits, and a woman in a striking red dress standing next to a guy with green hair. They definitely do not look like high schoolers. Ara winks, points at the crowd, and promises a massive, shocking event that they will never forget. The crowd goes wild. Jin just sits at his table, sweating a little, thinking to himself that high society parties are really hard to adapt to. Then the doors open again, and we see another baddie in a black dress entering the party with her bodyguards. Ara hops off stage and starts greeting this VIP. She runs up to this tall, elegant woman wearing a black and white dress and holds her hands warmly. Jin's classmates at the table are starstruck, eagerly wanting to go greet her. But Jin's eyes completely bulge out of his skull. He drops a massive lore bomb, internally screaming, "Were Priority Zero and Ara close friends too? Wait a minute, Priority Zero. That is definitely an assassination target." While Jin is processing the fact that Ara is besties with a high-value target, Red Hair is still yapping. Unaware of the impending doom, Red Hair points a thumb at Ara and smugly brags to Jin that she'll be his soon. Leaning in, he tells Jin it's not too late to apologize for wronging him. But before he can even complete, Jin stretches his arm towards his face. Red Hair gets violently blasted backward out of his chair. He goes flying, kicking the table up into the air. My boy just gave this bully PTSD for life. Jin doesn't even flinch, just casually looking at Red Hair's pathetic face, and then, pat. The lights instantly cut out. The entire massive ballroom is plunged into pitch-black darkness. The crowd erupts into panicked murmurs, wondering what's happening. Amidst the chaos, we get a bone-chilling close-up of Jin in the dark, his assassin eye glowing faintly as he realizes the ambush has officially begun. I'm damn sure now our boy, Jin, will go full John Wick mode to protect Priority Zero. Grand Ballroom is pitch black. The crowd starts murmuring in confusion, but Jin is instantly on high alert. He looks around, his eyes adjusted to the dark, thinking to himself that a random power outage at a luxury hotel in South Korea is highly unlikely. Through the sea of glowing phone flashlights, he hears the unmistakable sound of synchronized footsteps. He locks in, counting them out. 1, 2, exactly 9 people approaching in unison. Jin's assassin instincts completely take over. He assumes the absolute worst. Is this terrorism? A hostage situation? He glances toward the entrance, his face dead serious, wondering where on earth the bodyguards are. Suddenly, fast footsteps dart past his table. Ara and her VIP friend, who Jin identified as Priority Zero, who are visibly unaware of this standing confusion in the dark. Jin's eyes literally glow in the shadows. He completely confirms his own bias, convinced these phantoms are targeting the VIPs. With zero hesitation, Jin springs into action. He dives forward, sliding aggressively across the sleek floor like an absolute missile. He looks cool with his glowing eyes and athletic body lunges toward the shadowy figure. In a blur of motion, Jin intercepts the attacker midair. Jin grabs the massive guy right by the face, violently tackling him and screaming in his mind not to interfere with his mission. The attacker lets out a terrified, blood-curdling scream as they crash to the floor. Ara and Priority Zero look down, completely utterly stunned. Click, the lights suddenly flick back on, and oh boy, the cringe, Jin is sitting triumphantly on top of the guy he just tackled. But the guy underneath him is groaning in pain, clutching a bright pink bouquet of flowers. Jin freezes, a drop of sweat forming on his cheek as he slowly processes the scene. The other 8 attackers are just standing there in matching stage outfits, looking completely bewildered. The guy under Jin literally begs for his life, gasping for air. Jin's soul completely leaves his body. His face drops in sheer, unadulterated embarrassment, and then quickly gets up while crowd starts cheering, woo-oh, as the guy on the floor weakly pushes himself up, grunting, and announces that they have come to celebrate Miss Liara's 18th birthday. Yup, it's a boy band, the 9 boys. Priority Zero claps her hands together, totally amazed, calling the entrance incredibly professional. The 9 guys immediately hit a synchronized, flamboyant dance routine right there on the ballroom floor. Meanwhile, Ara is standing in the background, giving Jin the ultimate puff-cheek death glare. Jin is standing off to the side, sweating bullets, eyes wide in absolute horror as his internal monologue screams, "What on earth was I doing?" Bro thought he was in John Wick, but he just tackled a K-pop idol. Cut to the after party. Jin is walking home alone down a starry street, but the emotional damage is still hitting him in waves. He let out a heavy sigh and asks himself why he did that. The cringe is so terminal that he literally hunches over, grabbing his head in agony, mocking his own internal monologue about a South Korean hostage situation. He is absolutely dying inside. We get a hilarious flashback to the aftermath of the party. Ara is completely chewing him out, screaming about how hard it was to book the band while Jin stands there like a scolded puppy, nervously apologizing. But Priority Zero steps in to play the ultimate wingwoman. She tells Ara to calm down and points out how cool it actually was. Ara yells back, asking what is cool about the 9 boys' leader leaving in tears. Priority Zero flashes a knowing smile, teasing Ara that if it had been a real hostage situation, it would have been incredibly dangerous. But Jin threw himself into the line of fire for her without a second of hesitation. Ara completely freezes by that statement. She turns away, a massive blush spreading across her cheeks, letting out a shy "Tsundia, geez." Jin just stands there with a blank, clueless expression while the 2 women giggle at him. Back in the present, Jin stops walking. He shakes off the cringe and gets back to business. Despite the humiliation, he confirms his target. Priority Zero is none other than Han Yoo-ju, the daughter of the current South Korean president. He stares intensely ahead, mentally checking off that contact was a success. The next morning at Seoul International High School, Jin strolls into his classroom rocking his dorky bowl-cut NPC persona. Immediately, 3 girls swarm him, excitedly calling his name and teasing him with the nickname Black Knight. Jin looks completely confused. The girls gossip, asking, "Are you some flirting expert? And if today is day 1 of him and Ara dating?" Blushingly, Ara covers her mouth, laughing and denying the rumor, while Jin just gives them his signature awkward, sweaty smile. He finally makes it to his desk and pulls out his chair. But sitting right next to him is Red Hair, the same spoiled brat he gave PTSD to in the MMA cage. You'd think this kid would learn his lesson, right? Nope. Red Hair immediately barks at Jin to know his place, yelling that he ruined Ara's party. Jin instantly drops the NPC act. He shoots Red Hair a terrifying, dead-eyed side glare from the shadows. Red Hair flinches, sweating instantly, but tries to puff out his chest and act tough, daring Jin to try something. So what does Jin do? Does he throw a punch? Does he threaten him? No, Jin casually stretches his arm towards Red Hair's forehead. Red Hair completely loses his mind. He screams at the top of his lungs and violently throws himself backward, crashing his desk and chair onto the floor in sheer terror. Jin just sits there staring at him with a massive question mark floating above his head. Red Hair is panting on the ground, absolutely paralyzed by fear. Absolute peak comedy. Jin sighs, picks up the bully and yanks Red Hair back onto his feet. Jin leans right into his face and drops some heavy truth on the boy. He tells Red Hair that if he likes Ara so much, he should say it like a man instead of making excuses and bothering the people around him. Jin turns his back on the stunned bully and walks to his own desk, declaring his next major mission. Midterm exams are coming up. Jin violently slams a massive stack of textbooks onto his desk, grips his pen like a tactical knife, and stares at his notebook with terrifying intensity. He vows that his goal is to get the highest grades possible. He is about to go full academic weapon. Cut to exam day. We get a wide shot of the classroom filled with generic, faceless students. Jin is absolutely speedrunning the test. His pen is flying across the paper with aggressive, anime-style swishes, his eyes practically glowing with concentration. He flips his test paper with so much flair it creates a mini windstorm. The other students are side-eyeing him, sweating profusely at the sheer kinetic energy this kid is putting into a math test. Even the old geezer of a teacher is staring at Jin and shaking from old age, but the grind absolutely paid off. We see the school rankings posted on the whiteboard. Coming in at rank number 1, Kang Jin. The result day ends with a shot of Jin standing perfectly stoic in the middle of the crowded hallway, arms crossed, looking completely majestic as the other students blur past him. He stares ahead with intense, glowing eyes, internally declaring, the mission is proceeding smoothly. Oh man, from tackling boy band members to completely dominating the leaderboards, Jin is an absolute menace. We open up not with a joke, but with a hardcore, incredibly grim flashback. We see a close-up of a young kid's wrists tightly bound with thick rope. The camera pans out to reveal young Jin hanging suspended from a massive tree in the middle of a lush forest. His left eye is swollen, but he's not alone. There are several other kids strung up like literal piñatas, absolute nightmare fuel. A red-haired girl, presumably another child assassin, is hanging nearby, looking completely, utterly exhausted. Gasping for air, she called our MC Agent 7 and asked to give up, warning that he'll literally die if he keeps this up. But Agent 7 stubbornly refuses, wheezing out that he can endure a little more. She looks down with tears in her eyes, crying that because of them, he might be disposed of. Jin, operating as Agent 7 back in the day, is hanging there looking like he's about to pass out. He weakly mutters that it's just training, and if he can't endure it, she'll be next, and called her as Agent 13. Agent 13 screams that your body will break down at this rate. Jin just closes his eyes, dropping some insanely dark logic. He tells himself that if he becomes useless, he'll be discarded, and honestly, he'd rather that happen so he can just rest. Bro, this isn't a high school backstory, this is a literal war crime. Suddenly gasp, Jin bolts upright in bed, heavily panting and completely drenched in sweat. He screams out, Agent 13, at the top of his lungs, fully waking up from the horrific nightmare. Our mom comrade rushes to his bedside, looking incredibly concerned, asking if her son is okay. Jin sits there hyperventilating, his eyes wide as saucers as he slowly processes that he's in a soft bed and not hanging from a tree. He clutches the blankets, stuttering out that he's okay. His mom immediately leans in, gently wrapping her arms around his head in a warm, motherly hug. She softly tells him to forget all the bad dreams, calling him her good son, and promises that mommy will make sure he only has good dreams from now on. Jin's eye peeks out from her shoulder, looking completely traumatized but somehow comforted. But then the absolute cringe kicks in, Jin's brain completely short-circuits. He cannot compute normal human affection. In a split second, Jin violently leaps out of the bed, creating a literal sonic boom, and lands perfectly on his feet by the window. His mom drops to her knees, completely baffled. Jin stands at absolute military attention, staring straight ahead like a programmed robot, and boldly declares, "Don't worry, comrade. I will definitely complete my mission. and return home to the fatherland in glory. Bro, what are you doing? She just offered you a hug, why are you reporting for active duty? His mom just looks at him with the most confused, exhausted expression ever, awkwardly tells him not to rush it and there's still time. Jin suddenly clutches his stomach, wincing as he wonders why he feels a sudden stabbing pain. Yeah, Jin, that's just anxiety from nearly exposing your need for motherly affection to your comrade. Cut to broad daylight at the massive Incheon International Airport. Jin is walking up to his classmates while waving his hand, flashing his signature, goofy bowl-cut NPC smile, while his girl classmate and the gloomy boy eagerly wave him over. Jin's eyes suddenly turn incredibly sharp and edgy. He hypes himself up internally, declaring that he is heading to the 11th Asian International Mathematics Competition in Jeju Island as the school representative. Absolute academic weapon. His classmates are gossiping, super excited because Han Yuju, the absolute baddie priority 0, is coming with them. The squad looks over and there she is. Yuju walks up looking completely stunning and casually asks how they've been. Jin immediately snaps into his Black Knight persona, respectfully calling her senior. Yuju flashes an absolute mommy energy smile, teasingly asking if her Black Knight is going to protect her if anything happens. Jin completely simps out, brushing his head and awkwardly laughs. With a bright smile, Priority 0 encourages them to stay calm and reminds them to perform their best as representatives of South Korea. But the moment Yuju turns around, Jin goes full Terminator mode. We get this terrifying close-up of his glowing eye as he subtly scans the entire airport. He immediately spots a massive guy in a black suit with a nasty scar over his eye. Jin starts counting. 1, 2, he spots a bald agent, then a green-haired agent. He counts all the way to 6. We get an epic top-down isometric view of the airport terminal, revealing completely hidden, shadowy VIP bodyguards scattered everywhere. Jin immediately drops the edgy glare, turns back to his friends with a fake, innocent smile and notes to himself that these must be Han Yuju's elite security team. The scarred bodyguard stares intently from a distance, totally on guard. Jin sweats slightly, praising the insane security detail of Priority 0. Meanwhile, Yuju is just casually smiling, while looking at her, Jin, happily claiming that absolutely nothing dangerous will happen. Oh, the irony. Fast forward, and the squad arrives at the massive Olympiad testing facility on Jeju Island. Their teacher stands in front of the group, ordering everyone to rest in their rooms because the grueling 2-day competition starts tomorrow. Jin's cute, short-haired classmate crosses her arms, looking over at Jin with a smile. He curiously warns Jin that even for him, this will be tough since they're competing with second and third-year seniors. Does Jin look worried? Absolutely not. Jin smirks with the swagger of 1,000 main characters, claiming he will definitely win this. She curiously asks him why he is so confident. Jin hits him with an intense, deadpan glare, declaring, "For me, mathematics is." Swish, the manhwa gives us the greatest, most unhinged lore drop of all time. We get a flashback to young Jin sitting at a concrete desk in a dark, underground bunker. We cut straight into the testing hall. Jin is hunched over his desk, aggressively speedrunning the exam. His pencil is practically catching fire as he writes. A massive digital clock ticks down in the background. A North Korean military officer is standing right over his shoulder, coldly announcing that Agent 7 barely passed that one. We see a wide shot of the room, and oh my god, it is absolute chaos. This isn't a school, it's a literal gulag. Instructors in full military uniforms are literally kicking children out of their chairs and beating them for getting answers wrong on a written test. Young Jin is sweating bullets, staring down at his paper while kids around him get absolutely folded by roundhouse kicks. Back in the present, Jin leans on his hand, looking incredibly stressed and edgy, wondering if his nightmares are making him remember the old days. Bro. You think you have test anxiety? Jin's math teacher was a literal executioner. No wonder this kid gets straight A's. Outside the testing center, the tension is brewing. Jin and his friends are waiting on the sidewalk when a massive red bus pulls up, sporting the flag of China. The doors hiss open, and out steps the Chinese team, rocking matching green tracksuits and looking absolutely jacked. These guys look like they bench press cars for fun. Jin's squad stares them down, and Jin narrows his eyes, instantly recognizing them as a threat. Immediately after, a grey bus pulls up. The doors swing open, and the Japanese team steps out. We get a menacing shot of a blonde and a redhead laughing like total supervillains, while another spiky-haired Japanese student glares back at them. The Asian Math Olympiad is starting to look more like the Mortal Kombat tournament. The female classmate nervously calls out for Jin to follow them inside, and Jin casually agrees, totally flabbergasted by the rival teams. But as they head inside, the real plot kicks off. We see Han Yuju walking obliviously past the front desk of the hotel. Standing nearby is the scarred elite bodyguard, intensely observing the area with an earpiece in. Suddenly, bodyguard Han's ex-boss with glasses creeps up right behind the scarred agent. He places a hand on the agent's shoulder and whispers that a recent tip they received has a very high possibility of being true. The scarred agent's bright purple eyes widen in pure shock. The glasses guy glares ahead, dropping a massive bombshell. Those higher-ups are targeting the young lady. We get a chilling shot of Yuju happily walking with the school group, completely unaware that a massive assassination plot has just been confirmed. Oh man, the math test is the least of Jun's worries now. Han Yuju is casually strolling down the hall surrounded by students, completely oblivious to the fact that shadowy figures are plotting her demise. Behind the scenes, her elite security detail is already on edge. The Gigachad scarred bodyguard is intensely scanning the area when bodyguard Han's ex-boss, the guy in glasses and a trench coat, creeps up behind him. Boss starts absolutely glazing the scarred agent, telling him he is way too talented to be wasted in the Presidential Security Service and blatantly asking if he wants to transfer to their side. But the scarred agent is a true patriot. He stares dead ahead and coldly states that if South Korea needs him, they just have to call. Boss smirks, clearly liking the guy's stoic energy, and suggests they meet up separately after this job is over. The agent respectfully bows and marches off to secure the 22nd floor and the young lady's room. Boss watches Kim, Priority Zero's bodyguard, leave, completely satisfied with his recruitment pitch. But suddenly the confident smirk vanishes. Shadows cross Boss's face as he breaks out into a cold sweat. He clutches his chin, admitting to himself that even with the elite V1 security team attached to this mission, he has an incredibly bad feeling about this job. Oh yeah, buddy, your plot armor is tingling for a reason. Cut to the student accommodations. Jin and his gloomy-cut classmate Dongwoo walk into their shared two-bed hotel room. Dongwoo is visibly terrified. He is sweating bullets, awkwardly asking if he should just go get a separate room so Jin isn't uncomfortable. Jin hits him with a totally fake, friendly smile, asking what could possibly be uncomfortable between friends, before instantly claiming the bed by the window. Classic alpha move. Dongwoo just sits on the edge of the other bed, shivering like a stray chihuahua. Jin strolls over to the massive window, looking out at the gorgeous, sunlit Jeju beach and the ocean. But instead of enjoying the view, Jin's brainwashing kicks into high gear. He stares out at the bustling, wealthy resort island and realizes it looks absolutely nothing like what his North Korean instructors taught him. He was told that outside of Seoul, the rest of the country was completely poor and destitute. The sheer capitalist beauty of the beach causes Jin's brain to completely short-circuit. He aggressively grabs the sides of his head in a blind panic, screaming at himself for having such blasphemous thoughts and violently demanding that he never doubt the fatherland. Bro is literally having an existential crisis over a beach view, peak brainwashing. Dongwoo breaks the tension, nervously asking if it's Jin's first time in Jeju and offering to show him around to some great restaurants since people from Seoul come down to play all the time. Jin listens, but his assassin instincts instantly kick in. He looks at Dongwoo, sweating and stuttering, and realizes that this seemingly nice kid used to be a literal gang leader. Jin shakes his head, internally noting that South Korea is absolutely wild. Jin decides to do a little subtle interrogation. He asks Dongwoo about his and Jinseok's parents, confirming that they both hold highly important positions. Dongwoo looks confused and just shutter a little but then Jin goes in for the kill. He completely corners Dongwoo, pointing out that Dongwoo specifically told him math was his hardest subject. So how on earth is he competing in an international mathematics competition? Dongwoo panics. He looks down, sweating profusely, and stammers out that he was just lucky. Does Jin accept this answer? Absolutely not. He then tells about Yune, another team member. Jin told Dongwoo that she's very good at mathematics. Swoosh. Jin literally launches himself into the air like a WWE superstar, flying spread eagle across the room and absolutely body slams Dongwoo onto the mattress. Thud. Dongwoo screams at the top of his lungs in pure, unadulterated terror, violently thrashing his arms and legs, begging for his life and yelling, "Give up." Give up. Jin just pins him down, smiling like an absolute psychopath, tells him to use this chance to become friends with Yune. Our guy is just acting as a matchmaker now, a true friend. After nearly giving his classmate a heart attack, Jin casually rolls off, playfully tapping the traumatized kid's arm and telling him to wake up. Dongwoo just lies there, completely drained of his life force. Cut to a massive, beautifully lit library study hall inside the hotel. Jen, an exhausted Dongwoo, and their female classmate Yune are sitting around a large desk. Dongwoo rubs his neck, whining that he doesn't even remember when he fell asleep. Jin nervously brushes it off. Then Yune points out that the older second and third year seniors aren't joining them because they are too busy competing against each other to care about a study group. Dongwoo groans, complaining that it feels like they are just supporting actors in this whole trip, and asks Jin why he even called them here. Jin flashes a supremely confident smirk. He replies, "So you wouldn't be supporting actors," and aggressively slams a massive, phone book-sized stack of papers onto the table. Thud, Dongwoo and Yoonhae jump in shock. Yoonhae asks what it is, and Jin casually drops a bombshell. It's a compilation of predicted problems based on the international math competition tests from the past 5 years. Yoonhae's jaw practically hits the floor. She stammers that problem sets are strictly prohibited from external leaks. She looks at Jin like he's a wizard, asking if he somehow compiled all of this by hacking into foreign servers. Jin just rests his chin on his hands, closing his eyes with a smug, proud smile. But the manhwa gives us the real story with an epic flashback. We are thrown back into Dad Comrade's dark, techie room. Jin is standing at attention while Dad Comrade smirks, offering to extract the exam's problems for him to guarantee a win. But Jin, trying to be an honorable protagonist, stubbornly refuses. Dad Comrade asks why not, reminding him that victory is his ultimate mission. Jin fiercely declares that he can win using his own abilities. Dad Comrade slowly turns his head, flashing the most unhinged, creepy smile ever. He completely ignores Jin's honor, purring, "Really? Then I'll just give you a little help." Suddenly, Dad Comrade goes absolute beast mode on his dual monitor setup. His hands become a literal blur, aggressively smashing the keyboard like a caffeinated esports pro. He screams out his master plan with manic joy. First, identify the test committee members. Analyze their testing tendency. Compile similar problems. The guy is practically vibrating with excitement, yelling how interesting, while Jin just stands behind him, sweating nervously as his comrade commits high-level international cybercrimes. Back in the present, Jin smiles warmly at the stack of papers, perfectly happy to use his hacker comrade's completely illegal cheat sheet. But right as they settle in to study, the ultimate cliffhanger strikes. A voice rings out beside the table, saying "excuse me" in flawless Japanese. Jin looks up and we are blessed with an absolute thirst trap. A gorgeous girl from the Japanese team, rocking striking red hair and an incredibly sharp school uniform, is standing right there. She stares directly down at Jin. Jin's eyes widen in shock and he drops the hardest lore bomb of the series. Agent 13. In his mind, oh my god, it's the red-haired girl from Jin's hellhole flashbacks. Did she recognize him? His deep cover is about to be blown. Make sure to absolutely smash that like button and subscribe, because you do not want to miss what happens next when Jin comes face to face with a phantom from his dark past.